More people are now against this war, more than before. We're still in a minority, and not a big one, unfortunately, but many more people understand the cynicism of Netanyahu and of Trump's, and because of that, they do speak against the war. You could see in the Haaretz newspaper that it's almost entirely against the war. So it's not like it was before, but within the parliament, we are still the only voice against the war, and we are isolated. But I'm afraid that as it goes on and more casualties, perish the thought, are going to be in Israel, the public discourse will change too. We are talking about two megalomaniacs, not to say psychopaths. They don't really care. And I'm saying that, seriously, it's not a joke, and I'm not trying to mock them, although I do, but that's not my intention in saying that. They proved, not once and not twice, that they care only about themselves and their own fate. They don't care about the Iranian people for sure, and they don't care about even their own people. Netanyahu doesn't care about the Israelis. We saw it throughout the ordeal vis-a-vis the hostages. Definitely doesn't care about Palestinian lives and well-being, but not even about the Israelis. And Trump doesn't care about the American people either. The only thing they think that they care about is their own faith, and as a prime minister and president. I don't like to say leaders, because in my view, they are not leaders. Leaders entail something more profound, which you don't have. So let's say they are formal leaders, okay, quote unquote. So they proved they don't care about even their own peoples. They care only about their own political and even economic status. So in that sense, if they think that it can strengthen their power as such, they will do whatever they can, even if it entails the death and the destruction of entire societies, including their own. I think that they believed that once they launch a war against Iran, if Iran retaliates against especially American bases in Gulf states, so that will play into their hands, the hands of Trump's and Netanyahu's. And Iran, apart from other, if I just for a second rule out other denominators or elements, the government of Iran made a huge mistake according to their own interests when they attacked some of those bases in the Gulf states, because that may entail their alignment with the United States and Israel, like Saudi Arabia especially, and perhaps the Emirates as well. I don't know. So perhaps Trump and Netanyahu had that in mind. Obviously, they would like to drag those states into the war. I think that the interest of the all peoples, including the Iranian people, the Israeli people, the people of the Gulf states, the American people, etc., the Palestinians, the common interest of the peoples is not to have war, is to have peace. And it's possible. It's also possible with Iran, but you must be smart in order to achieve it. Unfortunately, we are dealing with fanatics across the board. The government of Israel is not different from the government of Iran. Let's be very clear about it. Both are theocratic fascists. I dare say that since the missiles crisis in the 60s in Cuba, I think that since then, perhaps now we are much closer to a third world war. I think that since this crisis in Cuba, the missiles crisis so-called during the Cold War, I think since then this is the most dangerous moment that we've had as far as World War is concerned. And I hope that that won't happen. I think that thus far, Russia and China, which again, I'm very critical of their regimes, that's not to say I support those regimes, but I think that they've been thus far relatively moderate and responsible as opposed to Israel and the United States. But if it escalates, who knows what could happen? And of course, there are other issues like the Russia is versus the Ukraine, China and Taiwan. All those things are eventually relevant. And if there is a moment in which everything, is begins to influence each other much closer than now, then we are in a very serious situation. And I hope that the war stops before. I think that the main element that can stop the war now is the public in the United States. It's very clear, according to the polls, that the vast majority in the United States, including Republicans, and including Republican senators and the members of the House of Representatives are against the war. And if they take more to the streets and Trump feels that is going to be defeated even more than now in the elections that are very close now, this year there are the middle term elections, of course, in the United States. If Trump feels he's going to be defeated, he knows he's going to be defeated, but if he feels he's going to be defeated even more, and I believe that he will stop the war immediately, because that's the only thing that bothers him. Look, first of all, I'm not very sure that there is really a vacuum, because we know that those in power in Iran, which again I totally oppose, they knew more or less what their fate is. And they actually, it was even public, they already nominated their successors. Not only one successor for each position, but successor of the successor, etc. So I'm not very sure there is a vacuum. This is one thing. Secondly, where history shows in Libya, in Syria, in Iraq, and other places that more often than not, the successors are worse than the previous regime. And this is something we must be very aware of and be very afraid of. But we must be clever, not only just. We must find the right equilibrium between the two. And I think that both Israel and the United States, formal, for the governments of both states, thus far have been neither just nor clever. And I hope that we won't pay a huge price in the future because of that.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.